What up? What up? I am ready. I'm ready. Who said I wasn't ready? I'm ready. All right. All right, let me get my life squared away. Hello, hello, hello. I'll give the internet a second to let people know we're live. I definitely think I'm forgetting something important, but that is how it be when you are going through Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Come on. What up, what up? All right, we're live on the gram. What up? All right. Today we are going through Ecclesiastes chapter 3. What's going on? Ecclesiastes chapter 3. What up? Last week we were going through Ecclesiastes chapter 2, which was good. It was encouraging. We talked a lot about Solomon's pursuit of pleasure and then his pursuit of wisdom. And in the end, he finds that God gives both to the one that pleases him. And for me, it was encouraging to just I guess to center my focus. I think a lot of times we live in a time that is like, you got to pursue this thing, you got to pursue this thing. And as challenging as Ecclesiastes is, I think it's powerful because it brings it to this one point. Our goal should be pursuing the pleasure of the Lord. And I think unconsciously, a lot of times as believers, we have shifted into a model where the Lord is a mechanism or a weapon for our pleasure, where God has come here to get us the things and to make sure that we have the things that we want, things that we may not even want a year from now. You know what I mean? And so it's like we have the God of the universe, and I think I don't think it's conscious, but there is this kind of mind state that He is here to make sure that my goals get done, versus vice versa. No, I'm here to make sure that what he wants to see happens. And so Ecclesiastes was just Ecclesiastes chapter 2 last week was just a good reminder of that. That like, no, the goal should be the pursuit of the Lord. And today, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, I got to admit, it has me in the kind of a weird, I don't know how to describe it, like a weird mood, a little melancholy. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So we'll dig into that, but so we'll get into Ecclesiastes chapter 3 in a second. Hope everybody's doing well. Can't really fully see what's going on, but if you're here with us, if you can do me a favor, hit the like button. That just lets people know we're live. Helps invite people to join in on the Bible study, and if you think this could benefit people or anyone, just take a second and share it. Let me know where you are joining us from, and we will get started here in a second. I'm gonna pull up. I'm using Ecamm Live because last Bible study and last podcast was a little fuzzy, so trying to make it clearer. And so so we're gonna go to Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I had this little riddle, but I done forgot it already, and I had to remember it. It was, what do you use but never own? What do you lose but never get back? And something else. Dang, I forgot the other one. But what do you use but never own? What do you lose but never get back? Drop that in the comment section, what you think the answer to that is. It might be obvious. There's a third one, but I forgot what it was. Sometimes I swear I'm gonna remember stuff. This was like literally like 20 minutes ago that I read this thing. And I was like, oh, I remember that. I don't need to write that down. And sure enough, I forgot it. Well, what do you lose? No, what do you use but you don't own? And what do you, Jay got the answer. What do you lose but never get back? It's pretty obvious. Maybe it's not obvious. Let me know. You could put the answer in the comment section if you got it. And that answer is time. Time. You use it, you don't own it. You once you lose it, you cannot get it back. And I forgot what the first one was. And today in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, he's not so much talking about time. We'll hear a lot of words around time, but he's not so much talking about time as he's talking about timing. And the idea that there is a time carved out for certain things. So it's like time. I think when we think of time, we think of it like just the process of time. But timing, I think, has to deal with moments. Timing has to deal with purpose. And so a lot of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 that we're going to discuss today has to do with timing. And yeah, like I said, going through it kind of put me in a little melancholy mood. And we will discuss why. Let me know you guys' thoughts. If you're here with us, if you do me a favor, hit that like button. Just let people know that we are live. And got the Bible study going, and we can get going. Excuse me, I'll be hitting random buttons. Not random buttons, but I'm still trying to figure out this Ecamm Live thing. It is a blessing, but I definitely do get confused. Come on, somebody. Oh, see what I'm saying? How we got this? Oh, maybe y'all don't see that. All right, so Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And we will start at verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, starting at verse 1. It says, "For everything there is an appointed time, a time for every matter under the sun." J to the blunt, what up? A time to bear and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to root up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Not with some Christians. A time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain for all of his toil? I want to go back to this first one here before we continue. Verse 1, again, we're talking about that he's not just dealing with time. Yes, you can use your breath and don't own it. I'm my bad. I'm just saying I'm late. Sorry, we're going back to the riddle. For everything there is an appointed time. Again, he's not talking, we're not so much focusing on time here, but timing. And the distinction really with timing is that timing typically, I would equate, has a purpose. Like, there is something has been carved out for a specific point in time or a moment. And so what Solomon says here is, for everything, there is an appointed time. And again, I would encourage us just to sit in that, like, for everything, there is an appointed time for every matter under the sun. And he goes on to listen. And one of the things I was thinking about, and it got me curious about, is like, I think as believers, sometimes we don't care about timing. We only care about what is the word? It's not being right. Like, something can be true or something can be right, but it doesn't mean that it has to be right now. You know what I mean? So, or something could have worked at one moment. It doesn't mean that it will work for every moment. And I think it's something as human beings that we do, is like, we're always trying to recreate, we're always trying to recreate different things and, different moments. Like, sometimes I hear, or you may hear people say, man, we need to be like the Acts church. Well, I mean, maybe, but I think the Acts church time was for that time. I'm curious to what is it that we should be doing now? What is it that we should look like now? Billy John says we want things immediately. Yes, and and that's very true. I think about the parable of the parable of the prodigal son. It was his inheritance, but he wanted it now. It wasn't that he wasn't going to get it. It was that he wanted it now, but there was an appointed time that he was supposed to get that. And I think about Moses, where God told Moses to hit the rock, and he hit the rock and the water came out. Next time, God told Moses to speak the rock, and I think Moses was upset and he hit the rock. And so it's like, something could be right at one time. It could be the right time for something at a certain moment, but it might not be the right time for another thing. And so I wonder, and I was challenged with this, is like, do I even know, or have I even asked myself, what time am I in? Like, what should I be doing with this moment in time. And again, I think sometimes as believers, we look back at fonder times, and we like, we're in a moment right now, but some of us are looking at the past, like, or trying to relive that past, like, but that time was for that moment. Future, what up? Future's in the building. You know what I mean? But that moment in time was for there. It's almost like, sometimes we laugh at it, or we see people who maybe, had a great time in the 80s, and then they're trying to go back and relive that time now. Or they're trying to, maybe, I don't know, the 70s. It's like, man, I love the 70s. Or if you're old like me, which I'm realizing now I'm old, the 90s. Or, you know what I mean? So it's like, my son calls the 90s, with no sarcasm, no joking. He calls it the 1900s. And it always makes me feel old. He's like, he told me one day to tell him about the 1900s. And I was like, boy, you better get out my face. I started realizing, and so sometimes you might want to go relive the 1900s, and not really pay attention to what am I in, what time am I in now? Where am I? What should I be doing with this time that I currently have? And I think even in our engagements and conversations with people, is it the right time for you to blurt in? You know what I mean? And even something simple as that, like, I think sometimes we develop a reputation of not having a lot of tact. You know what I mean? Sometimes Christians, because we're like, yo, what up, what up? We have we kind of just do whatever. But I wonder, like, is now the right timing? You know what I mean? Yes, you need to be sharing your faith, but maybe you should get to know somebody. Maybe you should develop, a friendship with somebody. And maybe another time you don't. Maybe another time God is on you so much that it's like, no, boom, I gotta say it now. And so, and that at that moment is great. But I feel like if something works one time, sometimes we tend to just try to keep on doing it. But again, it may not be the right timing. And I'm just even asking myself, how many times have I stopped and asked, is now the right time? And what time am I in right now? Am I in a time of reaping? Am I in a time of, now I'm getting in all this Christian language, harvest? Or am I in a time of sowing? I feel like I'm in a time of learning, but who knows? Who knows? And God knows. And this is what Solomon will get into here. But I just thought it was interesting. It got me thinking a lot about paying attention to time, and that everything doesn't. Yeah, I mean, just paying attention to time. Going down to verse 10, it says, I have seen the busyness God gives to humans to preoccupy them. He has made everything suitable in its time. He also has put the past in their hearts, yet no one can grasp what God has done from the beginning to the end. So I realize that there is nothing better for them to do than rejoice and enjoy themselves during their lives. I think I like Ecclesiastes because I think it challenges what we say we believe about Scripture. Because a lot of us say that we're standing on the Word and we believe this or this about the Bible, but Ecclesiastes, it challenges us with some hard things. And the thing that I'm challenged with Ecclesiastes is embracing how much control I do not have. Like that, that, I like when he says here, he has made everything suitable. God has made everything suitable in his time. He's also put the past in their hearts, yet no one can grasp what God does from the beginning to the end. So I realize that there's nothing better for them to do than to rejoice and enjoy themselves during their lives. And I think we may have talked about this before, just the idea that life it's simpler and also more complicated than we think. Like, I think what, a lot of this, sometimes Christians have this debate about predestination, and some of this goes into, like in 14, he says, I know everything God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing can be taken from it. For God so acts that humans might stand in awe of him forever. And then 15, he says, what is, it already was. And what will be, it already is. For God will do what he has done. And so this is a question that I had to pose to myself, and I guess I'll ask you guys if I could figure out how to say it concisely. And that's just like, if nothing you would do would change your life, what would you spend your days doing? If nothing you would do would change your life, what would you spend your days doing? Meaning, if Christians have this debate a lot of times between predestination, salvation, and just predestination in general. Like, if your life was already laid out and it didn't matter what you did, it was always going to happen this way. Maybe you had free will. Maybe your free will is an illusion. But if you were aware that your life was already planned out and that nothing you did would change it, because, like a lot of times we feel like, if I do this, I might freak out my life, or if I do this, I'll make my life better. But if your life was already orchestrated and mapped out, what would you do with your time? What would you do with your life if you knew that nothing you would do would change it? I don't know if that's the right. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. But I'm just curious, you guys' thoughts on that. What would you do if you knew that nothing you would do would change your life? And for me, I think it goes back to kind of where we were last week, where I think what we should be doing, and this is going to be a real duh moment, but if you think about it, it's not the main thing that we do, but I think what we should be doing is trying to please God. You know what I mean? I think that's what we should be doing. Now, granted, that's like duh, obvious, but that's not how we live. You know what I mean? We don't live like our number one goal is to please God. We live like, no, God has given me this thing that I have to accomplish, whether it be this goal, this thing, this XYZ, and if I don't do it, I'm a fail. Or if I don't do this thing, XYZ, I'm a failure. But like, pleasing God is something I feel like that we hope to do sometimes on the way to the thing that we really want to do. Simply D, what up? Pleasing God is something that I think like we're like, man, yeah. I hope that in the process of doing this other thing that I really want to do, or if I really feel like I should be doing, I hope that that pleases God versus pleasing God being the priority. And it's like, I think that if we embrace this, it would actually free us up from the burden of all the things that we swear that we got to do in order to be significant. And, where the line of predestination and free will happen, I have absolutely no idea. No idea whatsoever. But what I will say is, I don't know if we are in as much control as we think. And I think that our need, or the fact that we think we're in control, I think that formulates the way that we kind of live life. And I wonder if we embrace this idea of my main goal, my main mission is to please God. I'm curious to what that would look like in my daily life. What would that look like in your daily life? Because again, and it'll be repeated throughout Ecclesiastes, he comes to this conclusion that, like, listen, we should just enjoy the toil, the work that is before us. Try to find work that you enjoy and please God. And yeah, I don't know if we believe that. I don't know if we believe that is the that is the goal, that is the most fruitful thing. And one of the thing that he lays out through all of Ecclesiastes is the thing that you are suffering, or the thing that you're pushing so far for, you may never get. We talked about this before early in Ecclesiastes, that like you may work for this thing and then somebody else may get it and waste it, or that you may never get it. You could die in the process. So it's like we're putting all this stress on ourselves for stuff that we may never get, versus finding a toil, finding a good work that we can enjoy. Jay says Ecclesiastes 1, 4, and 5. Let me see if I can look this up. Ecclesiastes 1, 4, and 5. I know I got the Bible here, but I can't see. So it's a weird setup. I got to figure this out. So I'm going to see this. Ecclesiastes 1, 4, and 5. Actually, Jay, can you post it in the chat? Is it a generation goes, a generation comes, and the earth stands forever? The sun rises? Jay says Ecclesiastes 1, 4, and 5. I think this is where it comes from. Come on, man. All right. Whoa. You see what I'm saying? How do I? Boom. All right, let me go back up here. We're done with that one. We can read. All right, let me scroll. When we're done with that one, yes, because I got to figure this out. Come on, special. Because this is 1 to 4 through 5. Somebody says, I would hope that we could embrace true community and be in service to others. Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, like prioritizing that stuff. And I think one of the things that we would do if we realize, embrace more the idea of maybe we don't have as much control as we oh my gosh. Listen, by now y'all know that I'm special, okay? Listen, it's a Lord, come on, man. You know what? I got nothing to say for myself. I've been saying Ecclesiastes 1 through 5 for the past 10 minutes. And the future said, when we're done with that one, can we read Ephesians? And it just didn't even register. Oh, Ecclesiastes. Yeah, 1 through 5. We'll read it right after this. All right, Jay, do you have Ephesians 1 through 5? Could you copy that real quick? Ephesians, not Ecclesiastes. Ephesians 1 through 5. I'm gonna try to get there. See if I can read it. I was like, listen, y'all know I'm special. I went to Largo, and I don't really be reading. All right, hold on. Ecclesiastes. I'm still saying Ecclesiastes. It's the E's. All right, Ephesians. Come on, somebody. Ephesians, not Ecclesiastes. I'm going to read it here. You won't see it posted, but I'm going to read it here. Ephesians, not Ecclesiastes, says, just as he chose us in him before the foundations of the world, that we should be holy and blameless before him in love, having predestined us to the adoption through Jesus Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. Yeah, this is this, and I think it's one maybe in James and Romans that comes up a lot when dealing with like people talking about the predestination. It's like the Calvinist versus, I forgot the other group, something with E or A, arguing about whether or not, God has already has an elect of people that he has predestined and chosen to be saved, and versus not. And I wish that more Christians would embrace this. I have no idea. But I think let's say even if not, even outside the context of salvation, this idea that there is, that's what it is. I was going to say Armenian, but I'm so nervous. I thought that was a race. Okay, but y'all know I'm ignorant. I feel like Armenian is a race. I'm just going through. Okay. But now I forget what I was saying. But yeah, I think there's even outside of salvation, I think there's a lot more. I think God is still, of course, God is orchestrating things that maybe we do not realize and don't know. And I think it is a great mystery. Are we doing? Thank you. Come on, y'all are the most educated Christians in the world. Okay. Armenian, not to be confused with Armenian. I don't know the difference. I don't know the difference in pronunciation. Yes, but I think one believes that God has predestined a group of people, and then one believes that God has predestined people. I could be lying. Don't get me lying. And then they start coming for me. John MacArthur already don't like me. All right, let's continue on here. Sorry, guys. I'm all over. Starting at verse 16. It says, I saw something else under the sun. Instead of justice, there was evil. Instead of righteousness, there was wickedness. So I said to myself, God will surely judge the righteous and the wicked, for he has appointed a time of judgment for every deed and every work. I said to myself concerning humans, God sifts them in order to show them that they are like beasts. That word sifts is interesting because it is a theme that is throughout Scripture, and it is sifting. It's like a process where they remove impurity, maybe in flours and flour and different products where it's like they kind of sift through to get the junks out, the lumps out, XYZ. Peter describes a similar process where he talks about the refiner's fire, where or things being tested with fire. It's this testing that God does, apparently, because it's all throughout Scripture. It's this testing that God does to get to the core, to get to the purest form, to get to the core of what something really is. In the New Testament, it is kind of used differently, but the same principle, where God will shake off the dirt, and it's like this whole story. Maybe you heard it sometime in church. It's actually pretty powerful, because the process that Peter's describing is a process that that the workers would use with metal, where the worker would get all the impurities out. And the way they would know that the impurities out is that they would look at the metal, and once they could see their reflection in the metal, then they know that it was 100% pure. And, it's kind of like a metaphor of God seeing himself in us. And so it's like this process of sifting is where you get things down to the bare minimum. You get the dirt, you get the lumps, you get all the unnecessary stuff out. And he says, I said to myself concerning humans, God sifts them in order to show them that they are like beasts. God brings them down to nothing, to their core, to show them that they are like beasts. For the fate of humans and the fate of beasts is the same. The death of the one is like the death of the others, for both are mortals. Man has no advantage over beasts, for both are fleeting. Both, get this out the way. Both go to one place, both came from dust, and both return to dust. For no one knows whether the spirit of a human ascends to heaven or whether the spirit of a beast descends to the ground. It's interesting because I was trying to think during that time what was their understanding of heaven, but later in Ecclesiastes, here Solomon says no one knows, but later in verse 12 he says that when the body goes to the ground, that the soul is reclaimed by the Lord. I think here he's talking more general, like no one knows the process, no one knows exactly how it works or what's happening. But it's interesting sentence that he has here in verse 21. For no one knows whether the spirit of a human ascends to heaven or whether the spirit of a beast descends to the ground. So I concluded again that there is nothing better for a person than to enjoy the fruit of his labor, for this is his lot in life, for no one knows what will happen in the future. Hey, shout out to Future. I and you can tell me if this is weird. I don't think we believe that. Like, I think that we would have a lot more of a peaceful, a lot more of a content life. Like, I know for me, sometimes when I'm just chilling, I feel guilty. Like, I feel like, man, no, I need to be accomplishing something. Am I using the most of my time? Or no, I should be, doing this or that. And it's like, definitely in our current culture, we're always on the run. We're always on the move. That it's like, do we even really get to enjoy the moment or the time that we're in? Do we really take a moment to enjoy life? Do we feel guilty when we take a second to do things for ourselves? And I think, like, again, there's a lot that he says about finding or enjoying your toil. And I think, like, for a lot of us as believers, there's always, and I think just in general as people, I don't think it's something exclusive to believers. There is this thing of that we feel like once we accomplish X, Y, Z, then we can be, or then we deserve to be happy. So it's like, if I, I used to want to do music production, be a music producer. And so it's like, I will be happy. I'll be content. Life will be great when I achieve this goal of being a music producer. Or some people may say, my goal is to own my own business. I'll be content, great, happy when I own my own business and work for myself. And a lot of times we find that unless you enjoy the actual work, like the actual doing of the work, that when you get there, it's still a lot of work, and it's still a whole nother layer of trials and issues that you did not even expect. And so one of the things that Solomon encourages us to do is, look, find work that you enjoy doing, do that, please the Lord, do that and please the Lord. And I don't know, I feel like we think, and maybe be why I got Ecclesiastes 3 got me a little melancholy, is, I think we think that maybe there is more. And I think we put this pressure on ourselves of all this other things that we need to accomplish. But it's like, no, maybe sometimes we need to, that's it. And going back to verse 3, I think that if we prioritize pleasing the Lord, we don't have to worry about, which I think sometimes is this subconscious fear that, maybe I might miss the thing that God has called me to do. Or what if he told me to do this and I didn't notice it or I didn't think about it. But that's the deal. And that's why pleasing the Lord is priority. And as is stated in chapter 3, that if you please God, he will grant you wisdom. He will grant you direction. It's not, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of times we are constantly trying to take the map out of God's hands and then drive the bus. Like, oh, this is where you want me to go? Cool, bet, got it from here. When it is just like the prodigal son. It's like, God, tell me what my destiny is. I got you. I'm accomplish it. Tell me what it is that you want me to do, and I'm going to accomplish it and do it. Versus, I'm going to stay in my Father's house, and that at the proper timing, he will grant me my inheritance, because my inheritance is part of his purpose. So if I make it my priority to fulfill his purpose on a daily basis, I cannot miss whatever it is. Again, we had this conversation before on the podcast, if it's this grand purpose or not. But whatever it is that he called us to do, I won't miss it, because my daily position is next to the Father, continuously trying to please him. And in the process of that, I'm enjoying moments in life. I am enjoying the work that I do, but my priority is pleasing God and removing from ourselves the burden to always have to say the right thing, do the right thing, be the right thing. I think in Ecclesiastes, I don't know what chapter, but he actually says, don't try to be too righteous. He says some wild things which we'll talk about. I think it's later in the chapter, but it is very challenging. And so I'm just encouraged and reminded, and honestly still struggling with, just the simplicity of life, just the embracing the simplicity of, listen, please God, find work that you can enjoy and you find pleasure in, and enjoy life, enjoy the moments that come. And I think sometimes it's a challenge for us to believe that. All right, so that is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. No, yeah. Next week we will be in chapter 4. Yeah, next week we'll be in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. This Thursday, we got the podcast. Chris, what up? This Thursday we got the podcast. We might be doing question and discussion. I gotta talk to the guys. And next week we'll be at Ecclesiastes chapter 4. So looking forward to it. Thank you guys for putting up with me. And don't forget to read Ephesians chapter 1, verse 5. It's like that. Future says, yep, love God, work hard, be nice to people. All the money and all the stuff we have is nothing. Absolutely. And, and it may go away. And I think that we would be happier. So, again, reading these things doesn't make it easy to digest or to believe or accept, but at least it can give us a path of what to work on. This is what I'm working on. Removing from my shoulders the burden that I placed on it to save the world, or the burden that I placed on it to be XYZ of significance. It's like, no, again, I'm staying in my Father's house and I want to please the Lord. Let that be our priority. All right. Cool beans. All right. Love. Appreciate you guys. See you Thursday, 9:00. The Short of a Podcast. We will be there without any further ado. Oh, I don't have nothing that says bye. Future, I appreciate you too. Peace and blessings. And we are